Hello and welcome everyone to Something Something Chat Show with Tom Jr. Jackson presents a actual chat show with an actual guest. That's right, folks. Welcome to the show. Glad to see you all here. And I want to thank my great friend, moderator, friend of the channel, uh, RM, Positive Fandom. And be sure to check out Positive Fandom on YouTube and also check out the Burn Network run by Mr. Robert Maria Burnett. And if you are a member of the channel for as low as 99 cents, you can join the channel. You can become a member. You can talk with Robert Maria Burnett this weekend on the Zoom chat. Come on. You get your 7 minutes in heaven with Rob. All right, folks. Let's get right to the show here. My guest tonight is the CEO and president of the Last Gaming Prophecy Incorporated. He's now beginning a journey into a much larger world with a film. Her latest project is called The Chosen One. It's an animated Star Wars fan film, but I'm going to let her tell you more about it. Folks, please welcome to the show. You know her, you love her, Maria Espino.
Hi, everyone. How
Hey,
you doing, Tom? I'm so glad to be here.
how was that for an introduction?
That was great. I love it. I love it. Yes, and it's the last prophecy gaming. It's actually named after Nostradamus. So, his last prophecy was the end of the world being brought about by three rival factions, right? And that name actually comes from the gaming community that TLP actually started as. So we played in an MMO called Dark Age of Camelot, and we had our guild there. And that game had three rival factions: Albion, Hibernia, and Midgard. We were the underdog in Midgard, and it was just befitting of what we were doing, and it kind of stuck. And TLP, as I love to call it, TLP gaming kind of came about with my late husband and me. We created it together, and it actually started out in a game called Ultima Online, which is also an MMO, in 1997. So it's been around for a very long time. I think we are in the top 10 of the oldest running guilds, like gaming communities of all time. So we have over 5,000 members in various different games, all that kind of stuff. So that's kind of the origin of it. And then my late husband, and I decided we wanted to kind of turn it into a business because we had access to all these wonderful, talented gamers that actually had skills in game development. And so, like, they were designers and programmers and all that kind of stuff, and artists. And we decided to turn TLP into a business in 2008. And we started by providing niche talent to the bigger gaming studios like Electronic Arts, BioWare, et cetera, et cetera. Um, so that's kind of how we turned it into a business where we actually are staff. We call it staff augmentation. So it's like, if a studio has a project that comes in and they need 15 people to do this particular project, but they only have 10, they'll more than likely come to me to subcontract the other five, right? So I find them their talent and I place them in as contractors. So that's kind of the gist of what I do. And I also provide my own services to a lot of the bigger gaming companies around character development, world building, game story, narratives, dialogue, et cetera, et cetera. So I help to flesh out a lot of the pieces um, in the video games that people actually hear and listen to and walk through. So that's the part that I do for TOP. So just a
Well,
little bit.
you just answered my second question. What got you into
Oh,
gaming?
okay.
Which is fantastic. So now I don't have to ask that question, which is amazing. You, are you sure you haven't seen my questions?
No,
Let
I
me
have not.
let me ask you a little about yourself. Where are you originally from?
I was actually born in another country. I was born in Venezuela. And a lot of people don't know that and can't guess that just by hearing me because I don't have an accent or anything like that. Um, so people don't know that automatically. But I was born there by chance. My parents, my father was born and raised in Sicily, Italy, and my mother was born in Panama. So almost all of my family and my father's family migrated to Panama, which is how he met my mother. And so most of my family is all in Panama. Um, but I came to the United States so I was born a U.S. citizen. They were both U.S. citizens, and so but I immigrated into the United States to Fort Lauderdale, Florida, where I was raised pretty much most of my life. So that's kind of where I come from and how I got to the States. So I am kind of technically an immigrant.
All right. There's that question, and and you know what? I really like that because you can't tell, but yet you got that New York accent.
I do, and I'll go into that. So
You sound like an East Coaster, my friend.
I do. In Venezuela in the 70s, Venezuela was actually kind of like a very wealthy country in the 70s. Venezuela sits on top of one of, I think, the third largest oil deposits in the world. So Venezuela was very profitable around oil. And it's kind of what brought my dad to that area. And it also brought a lot of New Yorkers to that area. Because New Yorkers are always the New Yorkers and New Jersey people, right? They're always the first to like, well, how do I make a quick buck, right? And so um, they started a school in Venezuela before I was born, and they had a private school that was all English speaking. Um, and when I was born, my parents decided to put me in that school. So how I learned English was through New Yorkers. So every now and again, you'll hear a little bit of that accent come out. So it's kind of a funny way, but I'm technically a New Yorker slash Venezuelan. I don't know. Basically, I'm a mutt.
Yeah, because I'm originally from Rhode Island. I live in Connecticut now, but I'm originally from Rhode Island, and I had that. You can tell a little bit of my accent there, but the further up you go in Rhode Island and you head up towards Massachusetts, everybody starts sounding like Kennedy, and
Yeah.
and then it gets really thick, and so you got people.
Did we lose you? I think we might have lost him. That's okay. He warned me about his internet. But yes, definitely, very different accents in North New England versus New York. I don't know if any of you guys experienced that, but um, yeah, it's similar but different. I think the Bostonian accents are really strong, like super, super strong, but they have a little bit of a flair of the Irish in me. So a
And
little
folks,
flair.
I would like to just say, folks, I have the worst internet in the world. So if I disappear, that is the reason, and I'm very sorry for the spotty internet interference.
That's okay. I
But
got you.
yeah. So, but I mean, knowing you, I've gotten to know you through the Burnett work on
Mhm.
the Zoom calls, and I remember the first time seeing you come on and talking with Rob and telling him what you were up to and what you were doing. And I saw your enthusiasm, like, oh, I like her enthusiasm. She's cool. I wanna get to know her. And I kept saying, well, I want to bring you on the channel And then when we finally got to talk to each other on the
Oh,
phone about
great.
2-3 weeks ago, we had a blast. And I'm like,
We did.
okay, this is gonna go great.
Oh, for
So
sure.
my next question would be this. Um, you do gaming and stuff like that. So your company works on games. So like, could you tell people what games you may have worked on, that if you're allowed to tell us?
Yeah, I mean, for some of them, I'm allowed to, 'cause some of them are released.
Yeah, the ones that
Definitely
are
have.
released.
Yeah.
Don't break any
Uh,
NDAs.
no, no, no. Trust me. But one of the things I have had a long-standing relationship with Blizzard up until about I want to say 2020, 2021, and then we are now re-engaged with Blizzard Entertainment. So Blizzard, um, we did a lot of work with World of Warcraft, a lot of the quest lines and the primary epic quest lines we had a hand in writing, but also just consultants that we would contractors that we provide to sublet basically talent to the Blizzard team around World of Warcraft. So we've done a lot of that. Um, um, uh, we've worked with Riot and currently working with Riot in a lot of their upcoming stuff. Valorant was a big one for us as far as characters. League of Legends for a long time now. Um, we have contractors that are part of BioWare. I myself am part of BioWare right now. So, you know, big shouts out. But I think one of my biggest contracts is with Electronic Arts. And so with Electronic Arts, I get to work on a variety of different games. And most of those have been uh, Star Wars related, right? Because I mean, you know,
Yeah,
I, you know,
I couldn't tell.
you
There's
couldn't
there's no way you're a fan
know.
of Star Wars. You're
Got
not
a
a fan.
little bit of a tiny bit of an obsession with Star Wars, just a little bit. But yeah, most of them have been Star Wars. So you're looking at the Battlefront series, the new Battlefront series, Squadrons, and of course the Jedi series, both of those games. And also, bits and pieces of our folks have been augmenting teams within the Sims. So the Sims team. If anybody, I love the Sims. I play the Sims
Yeah,
so much. I really love it.
I used to have an Xbox 360, and one of the games I would play was The Sims, and I remember I became so
Love
obsessed
it.
with it.
I
I would
love
play it
it.
all
You
the
build your
time.
own world, right? Like you
It,
can
it,
build your
it's
own
like
friends and
it's like crack. It's like crack. It's like you're addicted to it and you can't stop playing. And then once you start playing, you start having dreams that you're playing the game because you're so used to
yes,
it.
yes,
You know,
absolutely. And I think most recently, I want to give a shout out to RM because I was in her channel, the Positive Fandom, and she was, uh, uh, you know, going through Jedi Survivor, and I was able to help her uh, through some of the harder bits there. So she finished it, she completed it, and I think it's such a great game. I think she can speak to that a little bit too. You know,
yeah, she finished
oh,
it.
she
But now
really really enjoyed it.
she still has a lot of the side adventures
Yes,
to do.
the side quests and all of that. So I think there's still a lot of playability for her in that game. It'll take her a while, and it'll take anybody a while to get to like that 100% finished. So yeah,
Yeah, I mean, and right now, RM is playing on her channel LA Noir, which
yes, love
it
that
was
game.
that the first time they started swearing in that game, it was just like she's playing, she's smiling. They start swearing, and she's like,
Uh oh.
"Yeah," and she wasn't expecting that. But the
No,
hilarious
no
thing is
words.
that it's very hard to navigate the car in that game, and it's hilarious listening to the partner going, "God darn it, can't you drive? Can't you
Yeah,
drive?" And
they
it's
have a lot of fun.
hilarious.
They
It's
really
listening to
poke a
the
lot of fun at you in that game.
and they do, and it's really a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And she is, I think, on what's it called? The something lipstick is. It's probably one of the
The
big
case.
the
Yeah, one of the
case. Yeah,
cases, one of those
one of the
cases. Yeah.
cases, and it just you don't expect to see the body that you see
Oh
when
yeah,
they
yeah,
find
right.
it.
Yes, absolutely.
She's like
Yeah, and
yeah.
because I want to give a shout out to the folks in the chat, I want to say hello to some of my cast members are in the chat. So I want to say a nice shout out to Susan Robb. She is the voice behind Maz Kanata in our film. And we'll talk about the film a little bit, right? But she is Maz Kanata. She plays Maz Kanata, giving Maz Kanata a much more rounded and deep and purposeful character arc. We only got a little bit of her, and I just love that character to death. So I wanted to expand upon her. So a little shout out to her. And I think I did see Miss Sharon Grunwald in here, and I'm probably butchering her last name. Because it's German. So, and Sharon plays the other half of our bad guy. Our bad guy in our film is someone who is very familiar to those that play around with the Knights of the Old Republic and the Old Republic era. And so Grunwald, right? Grunwald or Grunwald? I can't ever say the name.
She said you actually got it right.
Okay, there we go.
You
And
butchered
she
it, but
plays
then you got it right.
she plays that. It's the German. I'm an Italian girl. you know, we
I
don't get it
know.
right. So yeah. So shout out to her. She plays a character named Elian Zara, and Elian Zara is actually a comic book character. So she is canon and very lesser known character, but she has her own comic strip, and we see her a little bit in the Aftermath trilogy books, which are I love that trilogy, love it, love, love, love it. And so she plays Elian Zara in our film. Yeah, yeah, she likes to do that, Susan. She likes to throw the balance of the force off.
you
Too
know,
much
um,
good, gets her itching.
that you mentioned that you're doing this film. What did you have to sit down with legal on that, like the legal at Lucasfilm and stuff like that, to know what you can and can't do?
Well, let me say something and shout out to Lucasfilm. But let me just say something about Lucasfilm. Lucasfilm actually has a guideline on what you can and cannot do to begin with. And that stems all the way down from George's time at the helm. And he created like this 82-page document about, giving some of that to the fans and being able to create in his world and what you can and cannot do legally and all that good stuff. And I did sit with legal about it, but they didn't give me anything different than what was already established. So pretty much anyone that does a fan film within Star Wars, abide by the three rules, which is you can't sell anything, you can't purchase, like you can't go and put it in a theater and make money off it. So it's got to be nonprofit. So that's number one. And number two is create your own music. Don't use John Williams music as much as everybody loves to do that. That's a big no-no for Lucasfilm because the copyrights for the music, the sound rights, because music has two different types of rights. There's a copyright for the sheet music, and then there's a sound right. And both of those things are a shared element with John Williams himself. And so Lucasfilm doesn't own the complete rights to his music. That's actually owned by Warner Chappell, which is who owns his catalog. And so those are the big no-nos, right? Like as long as you don't sell your movie or tickets to a movie or anything like that, and you create your own music, you're pretty safe from doing anything. However, the challenge does come in the fact that that's not the traditional way that copyright works, right? So other fandoms, and I'll talk about Star Trek. um, you know, Star Trek, for example,
If you say
does
that
not
one more
allow
time,
you.
he shows up. You do know that.
You say that one more time. All right. Star Trek does
Yeah.
not allow uh, fans to create their own works. Um, they do have a very basic guideline, but it's very restrictive. But and they'll come after you legally.
Oh, and I think I know someone that knows that part very, very well.
Very well, right? Yes. So and so certain fandoms are certainly more strict than others. I just love the fact that Lucasfilm continued on that legacy that was established with George, because the entire reason that we have the expanded universe is because of fans. Fans who were authored, they would, write George and they would be like, "Hey, I have this idea." And Timothy Zahn is one of those famously that wanted to write books for this franchise. And so he went to George Lucas and pretty much all of those types of fans that wanted to write and tell other stories within George Lucas's um, you know umbrella, um, gave birth to the expanded universe. I mean, that is exactly how that whole breadth of books and all that kind of stuff came about. So, but I do want to say this. A lot of people tend to think that Disney decanonized the expanded universe, but really it was George Lucas who pretty much said that the only thing he considers to be canon are the movies and his TV show, which at that time was the Clone Wars. And so, not even the video games at that time, right? He did not even consider the video games at that time to be canon. And I think one of the things that was important for him was just to be able to have that breadth of work out there that he can draw upon for ideas. I think a lot of the stuff that you guys saw in the Clone Wars and subsequently even in Rebels, um, because even though Rebels was created by Dave Filoni, there was a lot of guidance given to him by George Lucas. And I think even in that show, you see a lot of the influences of the expanded universe kind of come into it. And he fully intended that to be like a pool that his creators, his official creators, right, could draw from and adapt in their own way. So, yeah, a lot of people have this misconception that Disney decanonized the expanded universe, but that's not true. The expanded universe was already not canon. Disney just came out and said it very officially, right?
Right.
And that's really all that they did. But
And slowly they're taking some of those things and bringing it like
bringing them in, yes,
Ron and stuff
yes,
like that. Yeah.
yeah,
Which is
absolutely,
a smart way to do it, is to slowly bring it in when you least expect it. And that way
yep,
you're surprised by it. And then, because
yes,
if you don't, people are like, we got all this stuff. Why can't we use it? Why don't you use it? And then when they finally do, you're like, there you go. You know?
yes, yeah, yeah. And there's problems with that too, because sometimes they will take some of those characters and reimagine them, right? They're not a one-to-one match to what people are used to, reading in their books. And that often also has a lot of, backlash. So it's like, you want me to bring characters in from the EU, but you don't want me to change them at all. And if I bring them in, you still are upset with me. This is where I could just
Right.
imagine, this is where the story group and the creative team and all that kind of stuff kind of sits. It's like they really can't seem to do anything right. And you know, I'm not a fan of Disney Star Wars. I'll throw that out there. That's the entire reason I have this whole program after the sequels, right? Is because I'm not necessarily a fan of the stories that they have told. Um, but at the same time, bro, they are continuing to put out things. And George was not doing that, right? He had the Clone Wars, and that was it. That's all the stuff that we saw from George after the prequels. And I
Right.
feel like Disney is really turning it into more of a it's more consistent, right? Of things coming out. Not all of those things hit for me, okay? But they certainly create a lot of conversation. And I think since Disney took over uh, Star Wars, we see so many channels based on Star Wars now and YouTube and in other places. You have Star Wars TikTokers, you have Star Wars Instagrammers, you have all this stuff. You never saw that before, right? Before
Right.
they took over. Because with the good and comes the bad. And with the bad, it gives people something to talk about, right? So I think that that is the key element for me of why I'm not necessarily pro Disney for Star Wars, but I'm also not against it. So uh, that's kind of where
Yeah,
I sit with it.
because to I just had a question, not a question, but I had a response to that, and
Mhm.
it came and it went.
That
No,
happens sometimes.
yeah. Let's see here what RM has to say. I'm not a fan of certain parts of Disney Star Wars lines, but their money has helped create a greater video presence. Yes, that's what I was going to
Absolutely.
say.
Absolutely.
There is a woman on I think she's on TikTok, she's on Instagram. Uh it's pixelated something. I can't remember what exactly her name is, but she is like the biggest Star Wars fan. And if I find, I'll look it up. I'll put it in the comments after the show. After when I'll look up her channel and I'll put the her thing on Instagram for people to find.
Mhm.
And she had a thing where she has all those. Do you remember those tumblers that they had at one
Yeah.
point with the tops on them with like Darth Maul and Yoda?
Yeah.
And yeah, she has all of those. She has the Darth Maul blew up chair. I mean, she's got everything. She's like a huge Star Wars fan. She's a huge Lord of the Rings fan, and she does these skits where she's like the overactive fan of X property, and she'll be like, "We're gonna watch Lord of the Rings. We're gonna watch the extended editions, all of them, and we're gonna do the Lego set, and while we're watching the extended editions, and it's hilarious, and
Yes. And I mean, none of
I
that would
love how
have happened,
people I
right?
love how people have that devotion to
Yes.
liking that stuff, and
Yes.
and,
And I
and
think
you,
none of that would have happened if we didn't have Disney take over and start putting content out to talk about. So,
yeah.
yes, Susan, it happens to her all the time. Me too. I sometimes lose my train of thought right in the middle of it.
Now, I want to switch up the show a little bit here, as I would like to do. I can't say as I always do because I don't have guests on all the time. I've been practicing. I've been having some people come on. I've had King Tannic come on
Oh,
a few
sweet. I
times, and
love his channel.
he is great. And if you haven't been to youtube.com / at King Tannic, check him out. He's got a show every Thursday on the network called the Otaku Experience. If you are a anime fan, he
Yeah, you'll
is
definitely
your
want to
guy,
check that out.
and
Hmm.
he is the biggest fan of Titanic.
Oh, that's like the movie?
Yes, he
Oh,
is the
Jan-
biggest fan.
we are two peas in a pot. I love that movie.
One of these days, I'll do a one of those improv streams that I do, and if you're
Mm,
around, I'll get you on. I'll get him on, and we'll do a thing on. And maybe we'll bring on RM. We'll do a whole thing on Titanic. It'll be fun.
I
It will be
love that
fun.
movie.
And I know one of
Iconic,
these,
you
yeah,
know.
one of these days we're trying to work it out when the time is when his timing is good. but I'm trying to get Taylor Gonzalez.
Oh, I
Who
love Tay Tay.
at 50 Shades of Tay. If you're on YouTube, look up 50 Shades of Tay.
Shades of Tay.
That's 3 wives, 0 dads, as he likes to say. Um, that's his joke, but I love that he does that. He actually goes to all these premieres. He does great film reviews. He's got a second channel called The Weenie's Guide to Horror, which he has his friend Amy, who used to be on the John Campea show. He introduces her to horror stuff. He made her watch Smile. Um,
Yes, yes.
yeah.
Love that.
So yeah. So that's that he I want to try to have them both on the show too. We're trying to get Rob on, and I mentioned it to the other night to him that you were coming on. I said, Rob, when are you coming on? So we're gonna set up a time, and when Rob comes on, folks, you will know because it'll be I'll be like, well, this is gonna happen. Um, so let's switch up.
Yes, yes, RM, absolutely. Let's highlight that comment. Yes, for Finn. I am a big fan.
You know,
I am a big fan.
I wanna switch up the show a little bit.
Okay.
Let's get a little something serious here. Like myself, I have had health issues, and so have you. Can you speak a little bit
Yes.
about them?
Yes. So, for those of you that don't know, I mean, I talk about this very openly, so a lot of people know this already. But I was born with a genetic illness called cystic fibrosis, and I'm 48, and at 48, I am actually considered an elder CFer.
You know, I'm 48
Because
as well. We're,
two peas in a pod.
mhm.
But at 48, I'm kind of considered an elder in my community of folks with cystic fibrosis. You are born with it. It's a genetic lung disease, but it's more than just a lung disease. It's a salt processing issue disorder, basically. And basically, your body needs salt, and it processes that salt. That then becomes a a an ingredient in how your mucus in your body is, because mucus is in all organs, from your brain to your eyes to your nose to your mouth. I mean, everywhere, right? Like to your reproductive organs, all of it. And what it does is it's supposed to be kind of like a lubricant. It's supposed to be thin and loose and lubricate all your organs and keep them working great. For me, and for anyone with CF, we don't process the salt well. Our cells have a deformity. We have two genes. We get one from your mother and one for your father. And in us, our mucus becomes kind of like tar, very sticky, and it really, I mean, since the majority of your mucus is in your lungs, that's the primary organ. But the majority of us end up in a double lung transplant list. That is our end stage. And I'm lucky enough to have moderate CF. And, I've done a lot with this illness. I've had it my whole life. I don't know anything else, right? Like I just got out of the hospital. I've had 37 total surgeries in my life. And no transplants yet, but I don't think I did get really, really low enough to be on the double lung transplant list, and I had to go through the whole shebang. I'm sure you can
Oh,
what I'm talking about.
I know that feeling when you're on that list, and
Yeah.
you get there, and
Hmm.
it's an interesting process of going through getting a transplant, of going through
And the
dialysis,
evaluation
and
for it,
being in the
right?
evaluation, and the fact that when I had my transplant back in 2012, as I was waiting for the transplant, they said, okay, we're going to do it at such and such a time. Uh, while we're waiting, could you pull your pants down so we can check your prostate? I'm like,
Okay.
is that how you're
What?
putting? I said,
I'm getting a kidney, buddy. You're going
I
a
know.
little too far down.
and I actually said to them, I go, is this the? I
Oh,
know there's a new way of doing a transplant. It, is that how you're doing that? That's gonna hurt. I'm not gonna be able to sit down for a while. And they're like, no, we just
you
test
have to check
before.
everything.
Yeah,
Hmm.
so
Yep, you
it
have to
was
check
it was
everything.
very interesting. I mean, I
So
got there at midnight for that.
yeah, I went through an entire week for that evaluation of all kinds of tests, from liver to kidneys to lungs to stomach to, like, I mean, all, they tested all organs, because one of the things that is common specifically for CFers, and I don't know about kidney in this situation, but for CFers, when it's your lungs, right, is because CF, like I said, is multivisceral, meaning it affects all your organs because it's a mucus problem. Um, you know, uh, what happens is other organs become affected by CF. So the majority of the time, it's either your liver or your pancreas, right? That
Right.
are auxiliary organs that get affected by CF. And so what happens is, once you get to the part where you need lungs, if you have other organs that are borderline, they'll consider doing a multivisceral transplant, meaning multiple organs at one time. And that's certainly new. And that was
Right.
scary. Like, wait a minute, you're gonna change, you're gonna just, like, reprogram me. I mean, I'm gonna feel like a droid at this point, right? So yeah, they had to test for the liver, and my pancreas has had many issues. So I've had CF related diabetes, which is the best way that I can describe CF related diabetes, CFRD, is it's type 1 and type 2 combined.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
great. So
Yeah.
you're producing the insulin, but you need the
And
insulin.
then not, and then suddenly not, right?
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. So we either can go really high in our numbers or really deathly low in our numbers with CFRD. There's also something called CF related osteoporosis, because our bones can be very brittle. um,
Hmm.
Again, all this stemming from salt production in your body, right? So um, you know the human body is a very complex machine. it's it's one of the most complicated droids I've ever met.
Now,
So
Maria, from what I understand, you have a foundation as well.
yes, I do. It's called Appreciate Every Breath. It's a foundation that focuses on longevity of our CFers, because so many of the foundations out there are so focused on trying to find a cure or trying to find new medications to treat us and things like that. There's a lot of those out there, but one underserviced situation that happens with CFers, specifically since 2019, we saw the release of a new medication that kind of gave a lot of CFers. It's called Trikafta, and it gave a lot of CFers almost a new lease on life. And it was engineered specifically based on DNA. So it's a DNA based medication that was created by the Cystic Fibrosis Foundation. All private donations, 100% private donations. We absolutely get zero funding from the government at all. Nothing, not a penny. So they came up with this new medication, and it literally gave CFers like a new lease on life. And most of our CFers, unfortunately, never plan for their future, because most of us die really young. Okay. We get really sick. Most of us don't make it past out of our 20s. And so there's just never been a point to think about, oh, let me plan for retirement. Oh, let me go to college. Let me do all these things. Right. And so when we do take this medication, and all of a sudden we're presenting with, like, oh, wait, I can go to college. I can plan for retirement. I can try to have kids, because most of us are born completely sterile. That's another thing.
Right.
98% of males born with CF are 100% sterile, and 56% of women born with CF, and I'm one, unfortunately, have fertility issues, really bad conceptional issues, as well as carrying issues, because again, mucus affects all of your bodies. It makes everything thin and loose and lubricated. So if you have a lot of like mucus that's like tar, your uterus isn't going to expand like it needs to, things like that. Um, yes, I can. um, but but we have all these issues, and we never plan for future. And so my foundation focuses on finding people like yourself, or people like RM, or people like Rob, or people like, just people out there that have a career, and it's a career that can be, um, you can work from home, or you can, maybe work a couple of days from the office, maybe whatever. That kind of situation is what we would need, because we literally have to spend like 6 hours a day doing treatments for
Right.
our CF. And that becomes really taxing. So how do we go into an office every single day when we've got all this machinery? I mean, I could show it to you. It's just crazy. We have like an oscillating vest that we have to do every day. We have oxygen tanks. We have all kinds, things, right? And so pairing people that have careers that can accommodate those issues very well with young high school CFers, or even middle school CFers, to give them a mentor that they can then go, okay, these are the classes you got to take in school. This is the track you got to take in school. If you really want to be a database administrator, this is what you need to do. Or if you really want to be a director, this is what you got to do, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And so you really kind of mentor this CFer who never thought about these things, right? They never thought, oh my God, I have to think about college. Like, I never thought I was going to live long enough to be in college, let alone graduate. And so our foundation pairs those people together and allows folks to make a difference in a CFer's life, and really guide them, and kind of take them under their wing, right? So, yes, thank you, Sharon. Yes, give them hope that, yes, you can do this. You can be like me, be a video game developer, right? You could do whatever. So, and I do a lot of work also, with the Cystic Fibrosis Foundation, in helping parents of like newly diagnosed babies, because you're diagnosed at birth. And I sit with them for an hour and I say, hey, look at me, right? My parents got told I would never make it past 16, okay, when I was born. So, and I also lost my brother to CF. We both had cystic fibrosis when he was 12 years old. And so I always say to them, I'm like, hey, look at me. I'm nearly 100. I'm like 90% compliant. There are days when I don't want to do my treatment. There are days when I don't want to do, like, those kinds of things.
We
But
all have those days,
I'll
and
have those days, right? But
I have those days.
I'm about 90% compliant. I do what I need to do. I stay on top of everything, all my doctors, all my appointments, all of that stuff. And I'm here. I have a doctorate in Egyptology. I have gone on digs. I have, which is like the worst thing you can do with CF, right? Is go anywhere near ancient dirt, you know? And so, just look at me. This is what your kid can do. And we have medical advances that have been happening all throughout, and it's not going to be the same as what if you go on Google and you Google cystic fibrosis, I mean, it's gloom and doom, right? It's like your kid's never going to make it to high school, and so I give those parents a different point of view. And I do that in the name of my brother, who didn't get to have a future. Right. He was 12. So, I want them to say, hey, yes, this can happen, but this also can happen. I'm that poster child, if you will, for a lot of these parents.
I we were talking about this last night on the on the phone about talking about things like this,
Yes.
And yes, and I get asked this a lot. How do you do that? How do you just come right out and talk about it? And I tell people, if you talk about what's going on with you, like if you've had something like that, it is so freeing, and you're like an open book. You're not afraid. And a lot of people, when they hear,
Yeah.
okay, you have CF, I'm a, should I be asking you questions? How do I approach you? Here's the
And I
thing,
said,
okay?
just ask
Just
the
say
questions. That's
exactly.
it.
Just ask
Yeah,
the question.
I'm so used to it just because of like, from very little. I mean, I was 5 years old when my brother died at 12, when he was 12. And
Hmm.
so from very little, I had somebody that was extremely sick because my brother was very, very ill. And so from very young, I had that like, I'm looking at what my future is going to be. Not very nice. And
No,
so I as a young girl, I asked all kinds of questions because I was always around it. Like my brother had like a hospital room in his room with like the hospital bed with the plastic sheeting around. He was like bubble boy.
the boy in a
Um
plastic bubble. Yeah,
yes. And so for me, I just constantly was asking questions. I never knew not to ask questions. You know what I mean? As a kid, you're like, oh, well, he's got what I have. Am I going to end up like that? And so I was constantly asking questions. So for me, it's just like second nature to talk about the stuff. So,
yeah,
uh, yeah, for sure.
and
Ah,
and
thank you, Varm. Yes, that is my TLP Gaming is my site, but
you know what? Let's
aebfoundation.org is the other one. I
yeah,
can share the
if you wanna you can, yeah, you could, no, no, I can do it. If you send it to me in the private chat, I can
okay.
put it into the
Yeah,
thing.
yeah, yeah, for sure. So you guys can see that, and I'll share about it. Let me see. Here it is. And I had a really good friend of mine. Here's a private chat.
Mhm.
Her name was Claire Wineland, and she also had CF.
Yes, yes,
And
yes.
I
She was a very famous YouTuber. She and they did a
yes,
whole
she was.
documentary about her, right?
Yes, they did. Yes, they did. Yes, they did. And I mean, she was the inspiration behind a movie called 5 Feet Apart, which I love that movie so much. She actually consulted on that. She was just she was so amazing, and she started her foundation, Claire's Place Foundation, when she was 14. Tom, 14. And I gravitated to her, for the longest time. I kind of you know uh, kept a lot of my CF kind of to myself. I mean, I talk about it if people ask me about it, or like my immediate, you know, circle. I talk about it with them, but I never really talked about it at that massive mass scale of like, being the face of something, right? Um,
Right.
and Claire really did that for me. She made it very okay to be the face of something, right? And but she's an amazing young woman, and uh, unfortunately, she passed away in 2018
Hmm.
from complications during a double lung transplant. Um, and yeah, and this is let me give you uh her documentary, her little docu series, which I
It's on YouTube, I
love her.
believe, right?
It is on YouTube,
Yeah.
and
She,
there's
because
also
I remember finding her channel, and I would watch it, and and I think I may have
yeah,
caught it. I think I may have found it towards the end there. It just started showing up in my
yeah,
feed.
yeah. That is definitely one of those documentaries, and that one is by, well, they used to be called something else, but now they're called Participant. But Claire Wineland's own documentary, I'll give you the link to that as well.
Okay.
Um,
So the
and her
first link
channel
you just sent me is
it's a documentary about her life. The second one is her channel, and oh god, I mean, I can't go to her channel without um yeah, I have yeah, I get really emotional about thinking about her. And
Yeah.
this is her documentary. So you have her channel, her the documentary that was made about her by someone else, and then the documentary she made about her own life.
Okay. So,
Yeah,
um,
she's such a treasure. She really is.
yeah, and she was great, and
Ugh,
she really knew how to put herself out there. That's when you see someone do that and they put themselves out there and they share their journey with you. They're not, they're not doing it for themselves. They're Well, in
yep,
some ways they are, but they're doing it to
yep,
leave a mark so that if you find it,
absolutely.
you're going through it, I've been through it. Here's how what you can do.
Yes, and I think that's really, really important for us as a human race to do.
Right,
And we talked about this yesterday, right, Tom?
right.
Where I said, by sharing your story and sharing your struggles in your life, you never know who you're going to be
And
helping,
I just shared the
right?
channel with you.
Oh, there you go.
Why
Yes.
don't I share it with everybody?
Yes. And, I think it's just really important to kind of live that, breathe that. And anybody that's in my team that's in the channel, Susan's here, Sharon's here, uh, they know that I'm a bucket of inspiration that everybody can draw from. And I know that sounds kind of like narcissistic, but it is true. And so many people have said that about me. They're like, I don't know, with everything you have been through, because not only was I born with cystic fibrosis, but I lost my husband of 22 years to in a car accident in 2011. Before that, I lost my mother, my father, and both my brothers. So I've had a lot of loss in my life, a lot of grief in my life, and I still manage to, um, you know, come out and go, "Hey guys, welcome to my channel," and all that kind of stuff. And I'm bubbly, and I do a lot for people, little things for people, and everybody just always says, "How do you do that?" Uh, you know, that's like the number one thing people ask me is, "How do you do that? How can you get up in the morning and be happy and stuff?" And it's great. Oh, thank you, Sharon. I love the girls. The girls on my cast are just amazing. We do watch parties on Wednesday, and I can't wait to start that with Ahsoka. Yay! So
I'll tell you this is that it truly is true what Rob says that every person you meet has a story to tell.
has a story to tell.
And
Mm-hmm.
and and it's true. And it's so many times when I go somewhere and someone goes, so what are you up to? What are you doing? And I'll explain to them, well, I do a YouTube channel. I have a friend, and I start telling them about Rob and whatnot. And I'll say, well, my friend Rob has this saying, every person you meet has a story to tell that you have yet to hear, and all you have to do is listen. And it's the truest thing you will ever hear from anyone, which is sort of
I
like with me, where I
Yes.
sent my letter into Rob, and he read it, and RM was there that night, and she saw him read it, and Rob started choking up a bit reading this letter that I sent him about what I've been through, because every he says
Mm-hmm.
that a lot, and no one ever writes in and says, well, here's my story, I'd like to share
Yeah.
it with you. So I
Yeah.
took up the offer and I did that,
Yeah.
and he and I just clicked as really good friends because he understood what I've been through. And I had to say that through him I've made a lot of great friends as well.
I'm one.
Yeah.
We are friends, Tom.
Yeah, yes, we are. And like I
Oh,
said, you are one of the people. When you first said you wanted to talk to me on the phone, you were so excited. And I'd never seen anybody get that excited to want to talk to me on the phone. It was like I felt like a bit like a celebrity. Oh, I'm getting to meet this person. I get to meet him. I get to talk to him. And so
aw.
And so, and I told, I think I may have told Rob this, is that most people want an autograph from someone they're a fan of, but I got something
Mhm.
even better. I got to become friends with that person I'm a fan of. So I don't
Yes, I
need
mean,
an autograph,
you
you
know,
know?
Rob is a perfect example of that. He really does live and breathe that. He's so open and so generous and so, loving. I love the story of your letter to him and him, being so moved by that, because I think, at the core, that is what he's trying to do on the Burnett work, is really showcase other people being themselves and telling their stories and enjoying what they enjoy or not enjoying what they enjoy, like Star Trek, New
Yes.
Worlds, right? Uh,
Right.
but but
But like
yeah,
like I
he's
always tell
just
people,
freedom.
and I always tell people, look, you could be a fan of something, and if you like it. Just because
Hmm.
someone else doesn't like it, they cannot like it. They're okay with
Yeah.
not liking that.
Yes.
And you're
Yes, for
allowed to
sure.
have your opinion. The
Yeah.
thing I don't like is when someone goes, "Well, my opinion is what you should be going by. You should
Or
be
it's
this
more
kind of thing."
important, right?
Right.
Mine,
It's
my
either my
opinion
way,
matters more, right?
right?
Yeah.
And I think
Hmm.
that everyone has a right to their own opinion. You have a right to like something. You have a right not to like something, and that's
Yeah.
why sometimes when I'm in the chat and someone's saying, "Well, I don't like this," and you get a bunch of people saying that, I have to take a step back and I say to myself, "Wait, this is an opinion. Let's not start a war with someone saying, well, this is why I like it." And, and I had to stop myself
Yeah.
because I know I will end up gaslighting someone for no reason. And I'm like, I can't
Yeah.
do that. And I am so
Yeah.
lucky that I'm able to do that, to stop myself
Yeah.
from,
No, I think a lot of people need a little bit more of that restraint.
yeah.
I'll be honest. And you know what? That particular phenomena is really what led me to write this trilogy of films.
And that was just where I was going to
Segue.
next. And that's such a, I swear, are you looking at these? Are they, is it,
Are these notes?
yeah.
No, no,
Okay,
not.
so my question to you is this: so you've done you've done gaming and
Hmm.
whatnot.
Hmm.
What made you want to um, transition from gaming into doing a film?
Well,
Now you're not doing just one film; you're doing three films, right?
and a TV series.
Oh, and a TV
Hmm.
series as well. And
And
I'm
a
going to
TV
say this
series.
now before I let you get into it. When the time comes and this comes out, I want to have you and your cast on my show.
Okay, that's going to be very difficult because we have over 40 people in our cast.
Okay.
It's a huge cast. It is not for babies. So we have some of them in here in the chat, but there's over 40 people
Well,
that
we'll
can do
figure
into
out
this film.
something. We'll figure out
Mhm.
what we
And
can
it's
do.
just going to keep growing because once we get into the TV shows and we're making new characters and we're, and then we get into 11, episode 11 and episode 12, there's going to be new characters too. It's just going to,
Yeah.
this cast is going to end up being like maybe 100 plus people.
And you're
So,
that's right, and you're global as well.
yes,
That's
Susan and Sharon. Yes. Yeah. So they're here. I mean, Susan's from
yeah.
Canada. She lent her voice to Mas Kanata from Canada. We have folks from Indonesia. Our Darth Talon is from Indonesia, and she's going to be on Saturday's podcast for the Dark Side as well. Sharon's going to be there, and we have folks from the UK. Half of my crew is from the UK, and we also have folks from, the Czech Republic. Oh gosh, from the Philippines. So we are a global cast. So there's a lot, a lot of folks here. So
So did you put
excellent.
out like a general casting call
Mhm,
for all
mhm.
these people? Okay.
Yes, and
So
it's just and I'll start with the background, Tom, because I think
yeah.
a lot of people think that I'm new to filmmaking. I'm not, um, but but the problem with us is that for the last 15, 20 years or whatever, video gaming has changed. Okay. We now have full sets. Some of you might have seen some of the clips from Star Wars Jedi Survivor, right? You've seen the clips with Cameron Moynihan and Mark Hamill, right? You see them all, doing their performance art. You know, all video games are literally filmmaking sets. We may not build out like the set decorating like the way, the way we do in like big productions, but it is a filmmaking process. We abide by all the filmmaking traditions and practices and all that kind of stuff. It's really thank you, RM. But it's really filmmaking at the core. And what I've been involved in a lot of is writing the scripts for, which are screen screenwriting, writing the scripts for like video game cinematics. And so a lot of my work has been doing that and filming all of that, and helping to do that. So there's a lot of that that I've already done as part of just this video game business. And so it wasn't really a stretch for me to jump right into real full making, filmmaking, full-fledged filmmaking. And writing for me is probably my core talent. Just that's what I've done for in the past as well for video games. And so I think that I excel a little bit. If I'm going to toot my own horn here, I excel at the writing part of it, the dialogue. Like in this film, when you guys see this film, the dialogue is so good. And I'm not trying to like pat my my own back, but the dialogue is really core. It sounds like you are living and breathing in a world rather than trying to sound pretentious, which I think in some instances the Mandalorian gets a little pretentious. I want to say the armor and the way that she sounds and the way she talks from the Mandalorian is like very plastic. It doesn't sound like any real person that I know, right? And one thing that was like really important to me was to get the dialogue right. And
So
even George Lucas struggle with that in the prequels, right?
so here's a question. You wouldn't happen to have a teaser you could possibly show?
we do have a teaser. It's and do you want do you want to
We
put the
can,
link
if
down
you want,
or play it?
you know what? Why don't we play it,
Okay.
and we can give them a tease of what that way they'll get a tease of what's on your YouTube channel as well. You know what I mean? So you're
Yes.
getting
Yes. So let me and I'll move this over and I'll show you guys our website. We have a very beautiful
okay.
website there.
Let me add this to the stream.
There we go.
Mhm.
And so this is our website. It's afterthesequels.com. We put a lot of hard work into it. I even had the cast help me, quality test it and stuff like that. We have a really, really big cast. So you get to see that there. But the main part of our website right now is our teaser trailer, which is, teasers are usually under a minute. And then you usually get 2 full trailers after you see a teaser. Not usual for TV shows. TV shows, usually you get a teaser and 1 trailer, but movies tend to have a teaser and 2 full trailers. And full trailers can be anywhere from 2 to 4 minutes, right? So we have that here, and we work really hard. We have the timeline here of like, hey, what is going on with Star Wars? And we kind of walk you through that timeline for all the movies. Yes, including the sequels. I'm not a fan of the sequels, but I thought The Force Awakens was probably the best out of all 3 of those films. And I really love The Force Awakens. I don't love The Force Awakens more than I love Rogue One. Rogue One is probably my favorite Disney Star Wars film ever, hands down by like a lot. Hence me liking the Andor TV series, hands down better than anything Star Wars has ever put out. And kind of takes you through the timeline of the movies. If you really look at it, Force Awakens to The Rise of Skywalker was like 2 years, not even 2 years. It was like less than 2 years. And so it was a very short window of time in between those movies. But, we wanted to kind of use little bits of the Rise of Skywalker, and our film starts right at the end of Rise of Skywalker.
You know,
There's no time lapse there.
I had to say about the Rise of Skywalker, and I've always said this. The ones I liked it. I'll admit that. Um, but the scene of where they return, they
Hmm.
Ray wants to go and see Leia, and they're
Hmm.
told that Leia has passed,
Oh gosh,
and
yeah,
it's that scene right there is the most heartbreaking sequence because
yeah,
what you get is, and I get choked up every time I start talking about this, but
yeah.
it's Chewbacca's reaction,
Reaction, yeah,
because
yeah,
what you can imagine is
yeah,
Chewbacca thinking um of Han and now Leia,
yeah.
and now realizing he is alone,
Hmm.
and
Absolutely.
it's just heartbreaking of watching him drop to his knees.
Oh yeah. I think one
And
of also I gotta say one of my most heartbreaking ones is this scene right here where
yeah,
Ben Solo sees a vision of his father and it replays the scene in
from
The
the
Force
Force,
Awakens.
but it's done at such a much deeper level.
Oh, that was the point in Rise. Listen, I like 10% of the Rise of Skywalker. I hate 90% of it.
Hmm.
But that was part of that 10%. I was like, oh God, yes. And I love the part where Kylo, comes, he turns into Ben Solo and he makes it out to her and he does the little solo shrug and he takes out the Knights of Ren. I was like,
Yeah,
yes,
that's I
right.
love that scene. It's like,
I love that scene. And
yeah,
I love this scene with I absolutely detest and absolutely hate that they killed off Ben Solo. I can't that I can't even swallow that pill. Is too hard.
but you know
Um,
what? As we all
uh-huh.
know that they killed Han Solo
Here's
because,
Susan. Hi, Susan.
and we all know that Han Solo was killed off because Harrison wanted it.
Yes, yes.
But
But
I think
Adam
that
Driver did not want to be killed off.
no,
Mm-mm.
no.
No, he did not. So let's see if they make it up to him. I'm just gonna say that. Let's see if they can make it up to him somehow. Ben Solo has returned. Um, I would be all for that, honestly. But yeah, so our website really kind of shows you that there's information about the three films. We have stuff that happens, project updates that will show up here. We have our poster, which Sharon has printed out. She had it printed out and she has it in the back of her booth, of her voice booth. We have our poster. We really, really, really put a lot of effort into that. We've got the ones coming up, uh, you know, updates for episode 11, episode 12, and of course, the in between, which is our TV series. And so all of that is going to be up and coming. I can't wait to be able to, the in between will take place. The TV series. What I wanted to do with the TV series, which is kind of unique, is build the bridge from episode 10 to episode 11 because there's a 10-year content gap in our story. And so I wanted to ensure that people didn't create their own canon of what happened in those 10 years, if you will, quote unquote canon, of
Yeah,
what happened in those 10 years. I wanted to be able to tell that story and have us see a real generational pass of the baton, right, to the younger Skywalkers in this, in this trilogy and stuff like that. And so we really want to do that. But to your original point, let's take a look at the teaser trailer and let's see if we have. Can you guys hear it?
can anybody in the chat hear it? Yes. I can't. It's like a 10-second delay, so we'll find out when.
Mhm.
But look at that animation. That's amazing. Okay, there's no
I
audio.
love her little smile. There's a little smile there.
Yeah, I
This
don't know.
logo is amazing. I love it.
It is.
No audio. Yeah, I
Yeah,
didn't think so.
but you know what? It just it's
Yeah. So
beautiful.
yeah, no, I can just give you the link. Let me see. Let me. It's on our channel. There we go. So I'll give you the link to it, and folks can see it for themselves. Um, in private chat.
And as I said,
There we go.
folks, nothing ever goes right the first time, but
Well, I
this,
think I think it's also just
yeah,
sometimes it's settings or StreamYards has a paid subscription part of it that might be
yeah.
why that
Well,
never gets. Who
well,
knows?
if I have enough money at the end of the month, I'm going with the paid for my monthly.
Yeah, and don't uh, don't take my I don't know why sometimes audio doesn't work, but
Well,
I
I
really
wanted to
don't know
do
why.
that anyways, so I can do my own outlines and not have powered by StreamYard to put a little logo there and
Got you. Yeah, that makes sense.
yeah.
Yep, yep.
Let's see here. Check out the chosen. Am I the only one who talks while typing?
Nope, nope, nope. And so we have, like I said, we have such a
And I just did it
great
again
team
for you.
working on this.
I
Did
want
you?
you to
Okay,
check
there you
out
go.
your own teaser trailer.
Ah,
Well, let's see here. We'll put that into the chat.
and I think I saw a question from someone.
Yes,
Um,
there was a question from Paul from Twinflix. Hello, Paul
okay.
from Twinflix. I hope you're doing well. Paul from Twinflix asks, he have a question. If it's already haven't been answered, when it comes to fan films, how do you protect yourself from being sued?
You don't. You pray.
Mm.
But I can reasonably say that there are several steps that come before you're being sued. One is the cease and desist that gets issued to you and says, "Hey, cease and desist and stop everything." Uh, and if you don't cease and desist, then they escalate. But I can safely say that Lucasfilm, like I said, they have guidelines around what you can and cannot do with their properties. Nothing I am doing is utilizing their music, their art, their voices. Um, Everything I'm doing is completely 100% original. As I have my cast here, and because of that, they have I give them very little reason to flag me, basically. But Disney already has guidelines around this stuff. There are 82. There are over 82,000 fan films on YouTube for Star Wars.
That blows my mind.
Isn't that crazy? That is insane. you know but if you try to do something for Star Trek, or if you try to do something for Superman, that might get you flagged and may get you sued. And that's if you don't cease and they issue you a cease and desist letter and you don't cease and desist, then they're going to escalate with a lawsuit, right? But
Right.
Lucasfilm just is the most agreeable with their fan films. They even had a fan film competition until 2018.
They should really bring
2018.
that. They should bring that back.
They really should. I have been, in talks about that with them for a while. Like, they really need to do that. And we had some great ideas that came out of our podcast last time about that issue. But really, there's nothing you can do to protect yourself against being sued. You just have to really follow, what it is they tell you. So, if they ask you to cease and desist, you really need to, take that to heart, or you're going to face a lawsuit, right?
Mm-hmm.
And in some instances, I don't know what happened with the Star Trek lawsuit for that film that Rob was involved in, but I'm pretty sure they probably issued a cease and desist, and the producers decided not to cease and desist. And when you are named in a lawsuit, um, the executive producers and co-producers of a film are going to be named in that lawsuit. So the only ones that don't get sued or anything like that would be cast, your VFX artist, your animation, those people don't get named in the lawsuit. It's only the producers that get named in a lawsuit. But um, if you wanted to create in Star Wars, you have a little bit of a safety net there, just because Lucasfilm allows that. But legally, right?
Right.
You are not allowed to create anything from someone else's intellectual property legally, right? So that's number one. It's just that some companies are much more agreeable to that. That's it.
Right.
Yep, yep.
So
Yeah.
let me ask you this question. So, how long has the process been of doing this
Um,
first film?
I wrote the treatment, the trilogy treatment, uh, for this trilogy of films, by May of 2020. And a treatment is basically like a short story form essay, that details the synopsis of a film. Um, my original treatment, there's going to be some differences from the treatment version to the script version. And usually, if I'll talk about that process, let me show you guys. I'll show you. Let me, nope, this one. I'll show you. Usually, uh, the treatments, and this is not anything that isn't, it's copyrighted and all that good stuff, because I did get the copyrights from
Yeah, I've
Lucasfilm, approved my copyrights for that. So
I've seen the paperwork that you have to do copywriting things.
yes,
Yeah,
yes. And so
it's
this is what a treatment looks like. It's, this is for all three films, and this is what it looks like. It's just the synopsis. It's what you want to build, for, I have it for all three films. So I came up with this in May of 2020. And then after that, what happens, and I'll show you the outline. Let me go into what I'm doing now, which is episode 11. From that trilogy treatment, you produce an outline, and that kind of just is something that looks very similar to this. So I work in a 5-act structure, which is very, George Lucas does too. He's kind of where I get it from. But and then it's just bullet points, right? It's like, okay, this is going to be a scene, and I'm just going to write down some bullet points of what I want that scene to look like. So, if I showed you guys the, uh, you know, navigation, you have roughly around 20 scenes for the first act. You have 15 scenes for rising action. You have 30 scenes for climax. Again, this is a 5-act structure. You have falling action, which is around 15. And then you have the resolution or cliffhanger, which is around 20 scenes. And you just kind of go through and you start, breaking it down into scenes. You think in scenes and you break it down. And from this outline, then you start, and I'll go back in here, and you start kind of the final drafts. And final draft Actually, this is it's written in a program which is the industry standard called Final Draft. And I can show you guys kind of like what that would look like a little bit. Um, you know, so you have your treatment, you build your outline, and then you build your script. And man, does that outline get a lot of a lot of massaging, and then you build your script, right? And so um, from there, that's kind of how the process go. Once I have the first draft, now I'll show you this, guys, as well. If I can go into here, templates. Nope. Let me go in here. And I go into templates. Let's see, where is it? Did I have it? Where is it? Here it is. We have script coloring standards in Hollywood, and for video games, we use the exact same. And your first draft is your white draft, right? So once you have your white draft, and you can see there's blue, pink, yellow, green. Green is usually your shooting script, is what you step into a film set with. And then as you're filming or as you're recording, in our case, because it was voice acting, you make edits and you continue down this path, right? I mean, you can endless amounts. And so you continue down this path, but you kind of have like the structure of drafts and edits and revisions and all that good stuff. But once you have the white draft, you really move from there into what we like to call pre-production. And in pre-production, we kind of think about what the trailers are going to be. We think about casting management at that point. A film is fully, if you are in development. So let me go back into Star Wars after sequels. So if you are in development, as this one has it, if you're in development, you haven't yet secured enough funding to produce a movie. But once you get into pre-production, that means you have secured enough funding to be able to hire cast and set decorators and production designers and all that kind of stuff. And then, you start creating the storyboards. And so, like, if I show you for the chosen one, let's go into art. You'll see that there are storyboards, and we have each revision gets revised. I really don't start like storyboarding until I have a blue, which is the second draft. But you'll see that if I come over here and I go into tiles, you'll see that the storyboards start kind of getting created. Okay. And so that's kind of the process. Once you start in pre-production, you really start creating the storyboards. You really start kind of massaging that story. I might want to move this, or I might want to edit this, or I might want to shorten this, or I might want to expand this scene or that scene, et cetera, et cetera. And you kind of move from that into, as you move through this, you get to the green, the shooting script, and your green storyboards kind of match that, right?
Right.
So that's kind of like the process of it, right? And once you have your storyboards and you have your casts locked in and all that good stuff, that's really when you start to move into production. And in production, that's where, you see, you either are filming in a set, so you have filming days, shooting days. Even for the voice actors, for me, I did, shooting days, which were recording, and we used Riverside Studio to do that, and everybody recorded together. I thought it was really important for us to do that as a team, and as we work through the blocks. And you'll see if I show you in here, let's see, production team, you'll see we had rehearsals, right? We had all the scenes broken down into rehearsal blocks. We had, ton of them. So we had all of these rehearsal blocks. We had, I think, 14. Yep, 14. We had all these rehearsal blocks, and everybody would come in, they'd rehearse, they'd be in together as an entire team. Um, and you would be able to iron out kinks, change dialogue where it needed to be changed, et cetera, et cetera. And then you go into the lives, and the lives are your live recordings or your shooting days. And those are 8-hour plus days. You're there for the entirety of it, and you are, recording all of your lines. And this is kind of what that looks like, right? So you have your blocks, you have less blocks because you're doing more scenes per day. You're kind of all that kind of, all the breakdowns of the hours and stuff like that, as you guys can see everything. So there you go. That's kind of the big process of it all. So I'm pretty sure. Does anybody have questions about that? Because
Yeah, does anybody have any questions about
yeah, I mean, that's
Maria,
behind the scenes of a Hollywood production.
because that's fascinating. That really is, because there are people that like the special features on a movie, and they break down how they did what, and especially when you see something like the Lord of the Rings stuff, and they show the pre-production, and then they go into production, and you see everything that how it's blocked out and stuff. I find
Yeah,
that all
yeah,
fascinating, because you
yeah.
actually see what goes into it and how much work goes into it without saying, well, that movie is garbage or this is like this. And you go, well, look at what they went through to give you what they did.
Right,
You get more of an appreciation
right.
of those
Hmm.
people.
Absolutely. And I think a lot of people don't realize you're very welcome, RM. I think people should talk a little more about that. To be honest, I'm very transparent. You can ask my crew and my cast. I'm very transparent about our process and all of our stuff. I'm very inclusive in our process as well. I have Sharon can speak to this. We're coming out at the end of this year. We're coming out with our first full trailer, and I call it the legacy trailer because it is focused on the dark side story, and it's focused on this particular character, which everybody loves. It's very evil character, but the love for a villain is there. And he comes from Knights of the Old Republic and the Old Republic timeline. And so everybody loves this character, knows this character, and it gets this trailer is really, really dark. And uh one of the things that I did that was very foreign to our actors was I asked, let's get in here, let's work through the storyboards together. Let's look at the dialogue. I came up with an original draft, so a white draft, and Sharon and Ross, and I mean so many of the people that were involved in telling that story were so involved in it with us. They were part of our sessions for storyboarding. They were part of, like, actors do not get to be part of those things. That's not a Hollywood typical thing. And I think it just made for a much better story. And this trailer is just going to really just bang it out of the park. I can't wait for you guys to see that, just because it's such a familiar character to a lot of Star Wars fans. And it's just, and just the collaboration of it that happened. Yeah, my little fly on the wall. And the collaboration. And the other thing, I'll talk about the fly in the wall thing. I'll talk about that. We have project status meetings every week with the team, the art team, and the crew.
Hmm.
And in my, we use Microsoft for back end, corporate stuff, right? Um,
Right.
and in our team's instance, uh, we create those meetings as an open invite. So anybody from our cast, our crew, anybody um, has the right to come to those meetings every week and kind of see what's going on with the process. For example, we're in post production. Okay. For the film, we're in post production. And so, like, the cast has already recorded their lines. They are, in essence, in a typical Hollywood fashion, they probably wouldn't see or hear or have anything to do with what's going on with post production, right? Until they get asked to come back to do marketing and do press, right? That's a typical situation in Hollywood. Not for me. I definitely invite them all to come to the project status meetings. They're Mondays, and they come in and they sit and they are little flies on the wall, and they get to kind of see how we're building it and how we're cutting it all together, and everything about it, to kind of demonstrate that here's the process, and here's the our planner board that we use for all the scenes as we work through them. So every single scene is in here. Every single scene from The Chosen One is in here. And as we kind of work through them, we work through the process in this from left to right. So we extract that rough dialogue of the lives, which was recorded, right? And then we work, prepare that framework for pacing. We really establish the pacing of the scene. And then we have pacing review meetings where our team kind of collaborates together, and I'm there to, like, really kind of direct, right? Because that's the director's job. And then, we have an animatic that is created. Our animators create very rough animations of what that scene would look like for us. And so we look at that, we review it, the director reviews it, and then I ask the animators for edits. That goes into an asset review for the artist. So now, okay, I've approved that animatic. I like the way that we're going to place everything. I like the animation that's being done. And now we have to create those finalized assets. So the artists on the team go to build those assets, right? And so they're creating this finalized artwork. And as you can see here, we kind of move this way. And then I have to review that artwork, make my notes, et cetera, et cetera. And then once that's approved, it goes into creating that final animation. So it goes back to the animators. Again, I review and approve. Then it goes to editing, and we get a rough cut of that scene with all the final bells and whistles. And I get to see that. I get to review that. And then it goes into final assembly. And then what happens after final assembly is it goes into the finalized music pile, which my guy is Vince Cox. He is amazing, guys. I mean, just brilliant composer. And we want him to be able to have all of the scenes in order, because when you're creating the music, and you may have sample music that you stick into a scene, right? Because you have placeholders for that. And so you kind of go through that, and now that you have all the scenes to, like, say, a sequence, then you create the seamless transitions of that music between the scenes, right? You got to do that. And that's the final step. But this is the whole final step. And you'll see that some of the stuff has 6-1. I actually took the month of June off the project for my hospital station. I was in the hospital for 3 weeks. So that all has to get reallocated, and new timelines and all that good stuff. But we'll get it there. But yeah, that's pretty much the entire process of it. So I'm sharing with you guys, like, the whole thing of it. But I'm a very transparent person, and I love collaborating with people, and I love teaching people, right? Like, hey, that movie that you said was trash. Well, there's all this work that happens that no one ever thinks about, right?
Right.
So
It sounds like something I said, but maybe I didn't. I can't.
yes, you did say that.
Yeah, but yeah, I can't wait to see how this turns out. It looks so good. Does anybody in the chat have any questions for me, for Maria? Uh, put them in the chat and ask them, and
We'll get
we'll
them
do our
answered.
best to answer them. And if you don't, you don't. There's nothing we can do about that. But yeah, this is gonna be great, and I really enjoy the process of learning how this all comes together, how long it takes, and the steps that go with it.
That's the only question Susan asks.
Yeah,
Uh,
Susan wants to know, how awesome are you?
uh, I'm only as awesome as my team.
See, Maria is a team player, folks.
That's right. Big time. Susan knows that.
Yeah,
My team is the most awesomest team ever. I love it. And the thing is, we also have like we just had the rap party. That was so much fun. We had an escape room, a virtual planning like game event, like one of those companies that host these kinds of things for you. And we had them come in for the virtual rap party, and we had so much fun. And then I, of course, had to go into the hospital, so a couple of things got delayed as far as like prizes and things. But I got you. But it's just so it was such a great time, and we have more of that. Like I said, we have watch parties on Wednesday night. We had that for the Mandalorian season 3. We had that for Andor. I know that Susan and Sharon, oh my God, those girls and me with Andor, we were such big fans. The
yeah,
costuming, the sets, the dialogue, Luthen Ralph's speech in episode 10 was probably hands down the best monologue in Star Wars.
that
Period.
was until Andy Serkis gave his.
No. I think Luthen Rail beats that. I'm sorry. That's just I think
Oh,
Andy
I think it would be
Serkis.
Luthen, and then it would be Andy Serkis second.
I think
Those are
so
the
for
two
sure.
really
Yeah.
great
I mean, and they're
speakers.
all on the same show. I was just like, wow, this is fabulous. I love it. And we really have for sure. That all the master classes, Susan. Yes. So, we had watch parties on the weekends. We had Nancy Cartwright, who has a master class in voice acting. And for those of you who do not know who Nancy Cartwright is, she is the legendary voice of Bart Simpson.
Yes, she
So,
is.
yes, and she has a master class in voice acting. We had her. We took that class together as a team so that all my voice actors could get even better at it. I mean, they were chosen to be in the chosen ones, so they're already pretty good. But we wanted to provide that kind of training, provide that kind of access to that kind of stuff. And we also had a class on physical acting with none other than Helen Mirren.
Oh,
And she is that was so good. That one was really really good. And I think because there's like this separation between physical acting and voice acting sometimes in Hollywood, which I never understood because they're both incredible in their own rights. But anybody that really wanted to play in both of those worlds, really got access to some wonderful master classes from these two amazing, amazing talents. Um,
you know
and
the story? Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
You know the story that about Rob doing with I think it was on the Latino Slant channel with Paulie. They did a blood in, blood out reunion, and they had
Mhm.
the director Taylor Hackford on there,
Oh yeah,
and
yeah.
Taylor Hackford's on there, and they're all doing this interviews, and they're all talking, and in walks Helen Mirren, and she looks in and she says hello to everybody, and then just walks away.
I love her. I absolutely love her. I think bar none, Helen Mirren is probably one of the greatest talents of our time. Um,
Yeah, she is.
bar none. She
You
is
know what?
so good.
She's great in the movie Red, but then she's
Is there
really
a
great
movie
in the
she's
movie Red
not
too.
great
She's fantastic. I mean, and
She really is.
she looks great for her age.
Oh my
She's
god.
still up there, man. She's great.
Yes. And we did the Helen Mirren classes before 1923. That was great. Yeah, that's true. Absolutely. And then we saw her in
And that was just
1923 and she was great. She was great. Right? Have
excuse
you
me.
seen any of the Taylor Sheridan worlds? Yellowstone?
I'm halfway through Yellowstone. I need to finish it. I was started watching it and then something else came up and I started watching that and then something else came up. And right
Of
now,
course.
yeah, and right now I'm watching a show on Amazon Prime. It's called Deadlock.
Okay.
Deadloch. Deadlock. And it's from Australia and it's a very black comedy, but it's a murder mystery type thing, and it is
Hi, Mikey.
hilarious.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hilarious. It is one of the I have I have never seen a show like this where it's funny, but it's that dry humor that you don't really see here in the U.S. But it's great. It's really a great show that I think everyone should check out if you're into something like that. But I know
Yeah.
tonight is at the time of this recording is the first episode of Secret Invasion.
Yes. Is that coming out at that's coming out at midnight my time, but 3
Midnight
a.m.
midnight Pacific, 3 a.m. Eastern.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, I mean, and I think I know RM's not doing a watch party for that because we ended up doing watch. We did watch parties for Picard, and then there was something else.
Mandalorian, no?
Man, yeah, it was Picard and Mandalorian, and we were doing those both at the same time, so they were like a day apart, and it, the exhaustion that we've all had from
Oh
that.
yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But then, but then she got to do.
I'm not staying up till well, for
Well,
me I'm
she
still
got
awake at
to.
midnight to be honest with you. But I wouldn't stay awake at 3 a.m. for Marvel. I'm not
Well,
a
you know,
huge Marvel
but
total Marvel fan. But
RM was and
I did love WandaVision and I did love Loki. Those shows
yes,
were great.
I can't wait for them to come back.
Yeah. I wonder if
Um,
WandaVision is though.
I don't
I think
think it
she was
is.
a
No,
yeah, I think
because
she was
they're
limited
doing
series.
the spin-off, which is the Agatha show.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't
but
know if is that ever going to come out? I don't know. It's kind of like the Lando series for
yeah,
Star Wars. We're still waiting for Donald Glover to bring it back home because you know what? I actually like Solo. That
hmm.
movie, I actually liked
Oh,
it.
it's
A
fun.
lot of people it's fun, right?
It
And
is.
I think I loved Donald Glover's Lando.
Yeah,
Loved
he
Donald
really
Glover's
did
Lando.
channel. Um,
Yes, he did. And a lot of
Billy.
people will say there's some folks that say I don't like it because he tried to mimic Billy D. Williams rather than create his own version of it. And that's also just a difference of opinion. Both are correct, like I say. And I happen to love Solo, but I loved Lando Calrissian in Solo. I just thought he was just Donald. I'm a big fan of Donald Glover anyway.
Yeah,
Um, his show Atlanta is fantastic. The ATL. And I also liked Alden Ehrenreich as Han Solo. A lot of people did not, but I did. And talk about someone who really made the character their own. That was Alden.
yeah.
He didn't try to mimic Harrison Ford. You know what I mean? He really tried to make it his own character, which I appreciated. So total juxtaposition between Alden Ehrenreich and Donald Glover, where Donald was more trying to mimic Billy D. Williams and and Alden was trying to just make Han Solo his character, which I really loved. And I
Because
loved Emilia Clarke.
I know when they did the press for Solo, they brought they surprised Alden It's Alden. Is that his name?
Yeah, Alden. Yes,
Alden.
Alden. Yeah.
Yeah, they surprised him by bringing in Harrison Ford, and Harrison Ford said he'd seen the movie and gave his blessing of how
Yeah.
much he loved him in that role.
Yeah. Yeah. He did. He did. And to each his own. But I really loved Solo. I thought Solo was a good film. It wasn't
Emilia
great.
Clarke was great in it. I
Yeah,
have the I
Amelia
have
Clark
the
was awesome.
audio book of it, and but the book
Hmm.
itself, there is an extended edition of that where it gives
There
you
is.
the
There's an extended
original.
edition for all
Yeah,
the films.
yeah, and I love those, and I
Yeah.
love like
Yeah.
the original
The
ending,
novelizations. Yeah.
the novelizations to of a Solo of where it went, and I love that in the movie. The great surprise was they bring back spoilers for those who haven't seen it. Uh, Darth Maul.
Yes. Yeah. It's been a minute.
Yeah, and
Right.
I think we're getting
It's
an
been a
Emil
minute.
Clark. We're getting a
I was in
book.
it in 2018, so it's
Yeah,
been a minute. So there's no spoilers anymore.
we're getting a book on Emil Clark's character as well.
Well, we have an entire comic book series on her character. Um.
But I know a
Which
novel is coming out as well.
I yes, I did hear that. I'm so excited for that because I happen to think Amelia Clark in Star Wars is where she belongs. I loved her character. She was great. And Kira is such an interesting character, and just the fact that you have, um, you play around with the underworld, which I love. I love that. So one of the things I'm looking forward to is that new video game, Star Wars Outlaws, too, because that one's
Yes.
kind of diving into the underworld of Star Wars more, which I really love.
Yeah, because I saw that trailer and I sent it to RM. I went, you have to see this game.
She's gonna love this game. I'm not even gonna lie. She is going to love that game because it's right up her alley. She's gonna want to do all the missions and all that kind of stuff. There's no like linear story in that game, which is why it's so different. But So it's not like Jedi Survivor where you have the main story that you have to follow through. But it's just you could just open the map and go anywhere, grab a mission, and do it. You know, so I think yes, she does. I love that she does, and I expect to see live streams of Star Wars Outlaws. RM. Now I had nothing to do with that one. That one is UBI Soft. And I don't work with that one. I don't work with that company. As a matter of fact, I can't work on any Star Wars project that isn't under Electronic Arts. So our contract is with them. But yeah, Respawn Entertainment. Um, they did that. Motive Studios as well. No, Star Wars Outlaws is a video game coming out in sometime in 2024, and don't hold them to it. But it's based on a single character whose name is Kay Vess. She is a smuggler. Well, I wouldn't even. You know what? She's not a smuggler. I take that back. She's a scoundrel, and there's a difference. A lot of people think a smuggler and a scoundrel are the same, and they're not. Um, but she's a scoundrel. She's kind of like a female version of Han Solo, if you will. And we're taken back to the time period in between Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi. So it's kind of taking place in between those two films. Yes, it is open world, RM. And open world as a feature is something that's been around for a very long time. But open world as a game is a new genre. And I'll talk about that in our upcoming podcast on the 24th, which Tom is going to be moderating for us. And we gave him the show notes and all that stuff for. And that's coming up on the 24th here on the After the Sequels channel. And we'll talk a little bit about that. But it's it's based on that time period, and you're playing as this character, and you are,
Yes, it is an open
wanted
world
and stuff.
game, isn't it? Yeah.
Yes, it is. Yes, yes. So there's no, like I said, there's no linear story that you have to follow. It's you open the map, you go someplace, you discover missions as you talk to people, and you either take the job or you don't, and um, you go from there. So I think it's something that's really gonna. I know RM's gonna love it because I think she's gonna really just love being able to go anywhere she wants.
Okay. You know what? I'm putting something in the chat here. Um, if you like movie prop replicas, like let's say the uh the book that Indiana Jones uses in the Last Crusade, the Grail book.
Hmm.
There's
Hmm.
a individual by the name of Swack Props who makes movie prop replicas, and he made the Grail book. He made the book from the what's that movie, The Ninth Gate. He made a
Oh
copy
yeah.
of
Uh
that
huh.
book for Rob, and
Oh wow.
he made some a replica of the covers to the books that are in the movie In the Mouth of Madness as
Okay.
well. And he made the map from the Goonies, and it came with the key to it. He does a lot of cool things. So check out Swag Props if you're looking to buy yourself a movie replica that you want. Like he made the map from Lord of the Rings or the Hobbit. No, it was the Hobbit, the one where
But
you
yeah,
could
The
put
Hobbit. Yeah.
you
Hmm.
could put the black light over it, and the lettering comes up and everything. It's really cool.
That's super super cool.
Yeah. RM says Hogwarts Legacy was an open world, but it had a story to follow as well.
Right. So here's the difference. Let me explain the difference. So the difference between um, an open world in-game feature and an open world game as a genre of games is that there is no ending in an open world game. So, an RPG, which Hogwarts Legacy is, and Jedi Survivor and Jedi Fallen Order is, right? They are RPGs. And that means they have a story that they're trying to tell with that video game. And they can have an open world feature within that RPG. Okay. So that means that you can open the map and you can kind of go anywhere. However, things are, for the most part, locked until you travel through them. Right? You have to get through certain points of the story. Like for example, in Jedi Survivor, you couldn't go to Jeddah when you first load in the game. Right? Um, you have to unlock it through progression of the quest. So that's an RPG with an open world feature. So the map is, you can travel in all kinds of places. And an open world game is a middle genre. It's in between RPGs and MMOs. So when I talk about MMOs, I'll talk about World of Warcraft. I'll talk about Diablo. I'll talk about Star Wars: The Old Republic. Right? Those are all massive multiplayer online games. So those games, you have certain files that are installed on your computer, but the majority of all the artwork and all that good stuff is on cloud servers. And everybody connects together, right, to an MMO to play together, and you get character creation. You get to be able to create your own character. It could be male, female, alien, whatever. And you create your own character and you load into the game, and you can connect with other players to play through the game. And that MMO has an open world feature, just like World of Warcraft, where you can kind of go anywhere you can ride to and unlock, right? The MMO does not have an ending. It doesn't have a linear quest that you go through typically, right? And so the gaming industry as of today, it it takes a good 300 to 500 million dollars to create a good MMO. Very, very expensive. And uh and the industry was like, listen, we don't have that kind of upfront money to do that. So it takes, and to make an RPG, it takes maybe like 50 million to make a good RPG. And when I say good, I mean like Hogwarts Legacy good. Although Hogwarts Legacy was overpriced. They paid like 85 million to make that game, and I'm like, where? Or Jedi Survivor, which was like 72 million, right? So you those are much that's a much more reasonable price, right? To pay to develop those kinds of games. But gamers they desire, they have this need to play an MMO type of game. But we can't afford to make those games in this industry right now, right? And so the industry in 2017, um, decided that they were going to make a middle ground genre that's kind of a middle between an RPG and an MMO. And they came up with open world game. Uh, and in an open world game, these games are going to be massive, guys. Like, you are literally like Jedi Survivor was about 150 gigs of space on your computer. For Outlaws, I'm guessing that's probably going to go upwards of 200 gigs. So if you don't have that kind of space, you need to get a new hard drive. and
Mhm.
and all it's kind of like having an MMO that's locally installed, basically, right? And with the open world game, you don't get a character creation. You can and you can't. Like, in most, it could go either way. But basically, the industry decided they needed a middle ground that's between an RPG and an MMO to satiate the desire and the want for gamers to have an MMO experience, right? Um, and but we just don't have that kind of money. That's really what it is. That's what it boils down to. And that's why they say and they tout that Star Wars Outlaw is the first open world game. It is the first open world game. It is not, however, the first Star Wars game to have an open world feature, because we have the Old Republic and we have Star Wars Galaxies before it, and things of that nature. So, yeah, and Jedi Survivor and Jedi Fallen Order, all those games have open world features. You can open up the map and go anywhere. But yeah, they are correctly, even though it's confusing, they are correctly stating that it is the first open world game for Star Wars. Does that make sense?
Yeah. You know what? I think I've kept you on long enough here.
Yeah,
Um, I want to thank you for coming on the show. I want to thank
absolutely.
my wonderful moderator RM. Check
Oh.
out her channel. She is a good friend to the channel. She's one of my great friends, and at some point this summer, hopefully, we're gonna try and meet up and hang out and cause some trouble. We're gonna conspire because I always like to. For some reason, I can't remember the word. Um, I can't remember the word, and I keep calling her my co-conspirator, my contributor, my collaborator. That's the word.
Hmm.
Anyways, I want to thank Robert Meyer Bennett for and RM for both showing the support and getting me out to put stuff on my channel. I want to congratulate RM on her 2-year anniversary for her channel. It was the other day. So, congratulations. Uh, you're welcome, Susan. Because she just like asked it like it was a question. Thanks,
do we
Tom.
Yeah,
The
well, because
other
you're thanking everybody else, and you should thank yourself.
yeah, thanks to Tom. I wanna thank Mikey Lito for being here. I want to thank Paul from Twinflix. I put his link in the chat as well. Um, and
And don't
Mike
forget to come check
Lito.
us out Saturday at
Right, and come check
3
out, come
3
check
p.m.
out,
Pacific.
check out Maria on her channel, folks, and keep up to date on the latest of the Chosen One. Maria,
Yeah,
this has
absolutely.
been a pleasure
Thank you so
to
much
have
for
you,
having me. I'm sorry I've
and
kept
you
you
were
so
my
long.
no, I kept you for so long, but you were my first interview.
Oh, I love
You were
it.
the first one. It was going to be Rob, but
I
we all
popped your
know.
cherry, Tom.
Yes, you popped my cherry. And um, Susan, it's okay. I was teasing you. I was teasing you. The question mark is okay. I want to thank you all for coming out and watching my first interview here. Um, and I hope you come back for the next interview. I don't know who it's going to be or when it's going to be, but it'll be
It better be
fun.
Rob.
Yeah, it should be. I want to I want to
We're
thank
all goof people.
I want to say what's coming up next for me. I believe Thursday 1 p.m. Eastern. See when it's 1 here. I have to do math now because people who live on the East Coast, I mean the West Coast. So when it's 1 p.m. here, it's 10 p.m. there. So 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific. You can come to my very live goof chat, as I like to call it, a very live goof chat. It's just like a very special afternoon special. But not it won't be as serious as one of those. And then Fridays at 1:05, I do Funko Fridays. So you can join me for that as well. JH Edits, yeah, I know we're gonna have you on the show at some point too, because you want to collaborate. I have a bunch of people on, but it
I
was this was
love
fun.
Funkos.
Me too. I do
Well, thank
too.
you so much for having me. I will dip out and let you close out. Thank you guys for coming over, and I want to thank my cast and crew for stopping in too as well. So I will see you guys on Saturday at 3 p.m. Pacific.
And thank you for coming, Maria. Okay, folks, that was Maria Espino. And I want to thank you all for coming. This was fun. Lots of fun. I didn't expect it to go for 2 hours, but hey, we were having a great time. Once again, I want to say thank you all for watching. And until we meet again, we are all goof people. And please be kind. Have a great night, everybody. Thanks for watching.